Well, America, about 20 minutes ago, the wire services reported that Joe Lieberman died. What we know is that he died from complications from a fall when he was in New York City. Now, unfortunately, these falls happen too often. Took the life of my father-in-law. Now, Lieberman really was the last of the moderates. He really was. Even the guy that's replaced him, Chris Murphy, he's a hardball lefty. And, of course, in 2007, he endorsed John McCain for president. But he was a moderate, and in Connecticut, he was challenged by a guy named Ned Lamont. He's a businessman, a leftist, who wanted to take his party further left and wanted the nomination for the Senate seat that year, and won the nomination against Lieberman. And Lieberman said, "I love my party, but I love my country more." And he ran as an independent. And he got 50% of the vote. He won re-election to the Senate with 70% Republicans voting for him, 30% Democrats voting for him, 50% independents voting for him. He had lifelong Republican friends and Democrat friends. But the likes of AOC and Bernie Sanders and so that's just too much for him. And he took a stance against them. And it's really odd it would come at this time. I talked about the Democrat Party purifying itself over the years, which is exactly what it's done. Exactly what it's done. Now, Joe Lieberman was a great patriot. Great patriot. Obviously, we didn't always agree with him, you or I. But that said, he's one of the few who spoke out against fellow Democrats, of course, against Republicans, and he was for this no labels movement because that's who he was. He was, moderate. Very few Democrats have had the guts to speak out when Chuck Schumer made that speech he did on the Senate floor, which will go down in history as one of the most horrific speeches ever given by any top American official. And clearly undermined the state of Israel in the middle of a war. Because Schumer carries water. He carried water for Obama, he carried water for other Democrats, and he carries water for Biden. What Biden has done and is doing to our country and to the state of Israel is unconscionable. It's diabolical. Diabolical. I want to remind you of what Senator Lieberman said on Fox News last Monday. I guess it was with Neil Cavuto, Mr. Producer. And I get the impression, although obviously I don't know, that Lieberman and Cavuto were pretty friendly. But I want you to hear just a minute and a half of what a person who puts country before party says. Now, we always put country before anything. Certainly before party. But today, and in autocratic regimes around the world, the party comes first, and that's the way the Democrats operate. That's what happened to this Ronna McDaniel. That was it. But let's listen to this. This is 9 days ago. Just 9 days ago. Cut 20, go.
I don't think anything was brave about it. I think it was outrageous, and I think really it was a case of a high elected official in the U.S. taking advantage of a friend, and you wouldn't do this with a casual ally or certainly an enemy. But to call out one of our closest allies in the world, Israel, a democracy when it's at war and tell its people they should dump their prime minister. Wow, talk about crossing a red line. That was a diplomatic red line that I have never in all my years seen crossed. And it's just, it is outrageous. I've been following the polls in Israel. The truth is that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not popular right now, and his right-wing government is not popular. But if you ask the people of Israel, is Netanyahu following the right policy in Gaza, trying to destroy Hamas? The answer is overwhelmingly positive. So Chuck Schumer is asking the people of Israel to do something totally contrary to what their opinion is. And I mean, can you imagine if Schumer had made a similar appeal to the people of Britain to overthrow Prime Minister Sunak for some reason, or the people of Ukraine to overthrow President Zelensky because he wasn't making enough progress?
And his voice will be terribly missed. He wasn't a showboat. He wasn't a drama queen. You can hear a very soft-spoken man, very decent man. A Democrat, a moderate, who had to leave his party in order to win re-election to the Senate and ran as an independent the next time as well. The vice presidential nominee of his party was Gore in 2000. And 7 years later, in the run-up to the 2008 election, he endorses McCain. Just want you to think about that. You compare a guy like Lieberman to Schumer, there's no comparison. You compare a guy like Lieberman to Sanders, there's no comparison. To Blinken, to Thomas Friedman of the New York Times. History will treat Joe Lieberman very, very well. And it should. We are in extraordinarily dangerous and dark times in this country. We have media outlets that are as bad as any media outlets in regimes that have state-run media, whether it's communist China, communist North Korea, communist Cuba, communist Venezuela, fascistic Russia. Honest to God, folks. NBC and MSNBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and most of the others, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the people who work in these companies. That's what they are, companies, and the most radical elements in our country. And honestly, the candidacy of Donald Trump, the presidency of Donald Trump, the effort at the Trump re-election, the unbelievable, unspeakable, unimaginable slaughter of the Israeli Jews on October 7th, it's brought it all to the fore. All to the fore. These elements are out of the closet now. They're in our universities, and they control them. They're in our media, and they control it. They're in Hollywood, and they control it. And these are all, just as there's the Muslim Brotherhood, the umbrella group for all these groups throughout the Middle East and so forth, there's the Democrat Party. Obviously, it's not the Muslim Brotherhood. But in terms of structure, it's the mothership to all these movements. All these CRT, DEI, economic socialism, cultural Marxism, open borders, the war on our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, the cancerous populating of our courts with radical leftists and attacking those judges and justices that don't comply, the river to the sea crowd, all of it. Anti-American, hate America. These are very grim times. And the man in the Oval Office seeks to exploit it all. I posted in the last week alone, he's accused Donald Trump of wanting to destroy health care. It's a lie. Who wants to destroy health care? He's accused Donald Trump of wanting to destroy Social Security, and yet it was he who went to the Senate floor multiple times and demanded that Social Security be slashed. Donald Trump has demanded that it go untouched, even though I personally believe it needs to be reformed. He does not. Biden is accusing Trump of wanting to destroy Medicare. Trump hasn't said anything about destroying Medicare. Biden has accused Trump of wanting to outlaw abortion nationwide. That's clearly not Trump's position. And this is the obsession of the Democrat Party for the reason that I wrote in The Democrat Party Hates America, which was the most important voting demographic the Democrats have. It's not blacks. It's not Jews. It's not any minority. It's single women. By a huge margin. Single, childless women. That is their strongest base. That's why they will talk of abortion until they're blue in the face. He says Donald Trump wants to destroy democracy. And yet, Donald Trump left office. He did not commit any acts of insurrection or sedition or violence, which is how Joe Biden wound up in the Oval Office. It's Joe Biden who's clearly destroying our republic. And he says that Donald Trump wants to put his political opponents in prison, when in fact he's trying to put Donald Trump in prison. What you saw at MSNBC and NBC with Ronna McDaniel has nothing to do with Ronna McDaniel. It's much bigger than that. These people hate your guts, and they hate this country. They talk about elections. They try to change the electoral system in every single state. They have a phalanx of lawyers from one end of the country to the other, trying to institute laws and rules and executive orders that ensure they can't lose. And apparently, it's a bridge too far to require people to show the voter ID that's already been handed out to them for 1,000 other reasons when they vote. Because the Democrats, by that act alone, are depending on fraud. They don't care about what's happening in the open border. They don't care what's happening to our people as a result of an open border. They could care less. Joe Lieberman said, "I love my party, but my country comes first." That's not your typical Democrat. They love their party first, foremost, above all else. And in many ways, they hate our country. Lieberman wanted nothing to do with that. He's the only major Democrat that I can think of who took on his party, who took on Schumer, who rejected what Biden was doing. Nothing in common with Bernie Sanders, would not play footsie with the Marxist wing of the Democrat Party, wanted nothing to do with it. And unfortunately, with his death, there are none or very few left like him. None or very few. MSNBC is the network of Bernie Sanders and AOC. CNN is the network of Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer.